everyone, how are you today? So today is the most important question, right? So the question is, would you like to see these images day in and out? Water pollution, air pollution, plastic pollution. Our lands are filled, our waters are filled, like water bodies are filled with so much of pollution. Would you like to see all of this forever? For our generations to come? Do you want that? No? Right? So what is our responsibility to our next generation that we are going to, what we are going to give them? What is it? Right? Are we going to give them this world? Right? No? So, in order to do that, if you don't want this world to be like this, then it is so imperative for all of us to understand there is COP26 happening. So what is COP26? So around the world of small storms, floods and wildfires are intensifying. Air pollution is sadly affecting the health of tens and millions of people, and unpredictable weather is causing so much untold damages to homes, to livelihoods, yeah? And the impact of climate change is such devastating, right? So we all, like, the opportunity is something that to avert this crisis, countries need to join the force urgently, right? So in November, the UK and together with the partner Italy, they are going to host an event many believe to be the world's best chance to get runaway for the climate change under control. For nearly 3 decades, the UN has been bringing together almost every country on the earth for global climate summits, which is called as COP, which stands for Conference of the Parties, right? So this year it will be 26th annual summit. So that's how it is COP26. And with the UK as a precedent, COP26 is going to take place in Glasgow, right? So what is it about? What is COP? क्यों होता है? कहाँ से है, right? So it is a part of Paris Agreement. As a part of Paris Agreement, क्या है? What is the Paris Agreement? Paris Agreement, every country agreed to communicate or update their emission reduction targets. Yeah. So their nationally determined contribution, NDC, it is called as, right? So every 5 years to reflect their highest possible ambition and progression over the time. So these targets set out how far countries plan to reduce the emission across their entire economy and in specific sectors. Okay. So in order to that, when the world is moving towards low carbon future, clean energy, like wind and solar, so because it is new cheapest source of electricity in most of the countries, and many of the world's car makers are shifting to make only electric and hybrid models. So countries around the world are starting, important work to protect and restore the nature, right? So that's how it is. That's how the COP26 is all about, right? So to answer, I'm going to answer the 3 questions. What is COP? What happens at COP26? And what is the Paris Agreement? And what, as a professional, finance professional, why it is so important for all of us to understand this COP26? What are the future opportunities for all of us? Yeah. So what is COP26? As I said, COP stands for Conference of the Parties. So parties are signatories of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, so which is also known as UNFCCC. No? So that is a treaty which got agreed in 1994, and in which they have 197 parties. That means 196 countries and the EU. The 2021 conference is hosted by UK together with the partners in Italy, and which is going to get in Glasgow. So that will be 26th meeting of the parties, and which is why it is called as COP26. So United Nations climate change conferences are among the largest international meetings in the world. The negotiation between the governments are quite complex, and they involve officials from every country in the world, as well as representative from the civil society and global news media. Now, your next question would be, what happens at COP26? So, activity at COP26 takes place in two different zones. One is blue zone, and the other one is green zone. So, the blue zone is where the people registered with the UN body, they are tasked with coordinating the global response to the threat of climate change. So, which is UNFCCC. In the blue zone, you might be part of national delegation. So work of United Nations and related organization, or maybe the agency or the member of the media or non-profit observer organization. So in the blue zone, delegates from the countries meet both for formal negotiation and informal consultation. Okay, so they may also take part in meetings with other delegations to clarify their positions and interest, with the aim of reaching agreement and overcoming at negotiations deadlock, right? So UNFCCC will also host a range of events, including the technical briefings to support the negotiation process. The green zone, and in the green zone, the general public can also take part of it. So there will be a wide range of events, including workshop, art exhibition, installations, as well as presentation, demonstration of technology, and musical performances also for everyone to attend, right? And what is the Paris Agreement? So the third question, what is the Paris Agreement? The Paris Agreement was agreed in COP21. As we have COP26, they have COP20. We had COP21 in 2015, year 2015. So for the first time ever, it saw almost every country around the world enter into legally binding commitment to reduce emission. It was like top-down approach, like top-down in that every country, no matter how big or small, signed up for cutting carbon emissions to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees. So ideally, the degree is 1.5. So about the pre-industrial levels, and it was bottom up in that it left room for each individual country to decide how they would want to get there. So these were called as National Determined Contribution, NDC. And the Paris Agreement also set out the ambitious goals on adaptation and on finance, recognizing that many people around the world are already experiencing the impacts of changing climate. So to support that financially, technically, or capacity building, so that was much needed. So it was all formulated in Paris Agreement. So then you would ask me, why does limiting temperature rise to 1.5 degrees matter so much, right? So at 2 degrees of global warming, there would be widespread and severe impacts on people and nature. 1/3 of the world's population would be regularly exposed to severe heat, leading to health problems, more health-related deaths, and almost all warm water coral reefs would be destroyed. The Arctic Sea ice would melt entirely at least one summer per decade, with devastating impacts on the wildlife and communities they support. So we cannot rule out the possibility that irreversible loss of ice sheets in Greenland and the Antarctic could be triggered, leading to several meters of sea levels rise over the centuries to come. At 1.5 degree, the impact would be serious but less severe. There would be lower risk of food and water shortage, and the lower risk of economic, risk to economic growth, and fewer species at risk of extinction. So threats to human health from air pollution, disease, malnutrition, exposure to extreme heat would also be lower. And that is why every fraction of degree of warming matters, and why we are dedicated to keeping that prospect of holding temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, right? So that is the importance of 1.5 degrees. So now the second part of the video, what I would love to talk about, how it matters for us as finance professionals, right? So there are objectives. These objectives are given, right? These objectives, if you go there and if you search for COP26, this synopsis is from COP26 with due regards, yeah. So they have mentioned 4 objectives for us as a finance people. So what are those objectives? reporting, risk management, returns, and mobilization. Okay, so these are the reports. They are set for the key objectives, and the actions are needed to deliver them, right? So reporting, what are the reportings? How it is important for us as a professional, finance professional. So there is one report called as TCFD, the Task Force for Climate Related Financial Disclosure, right? So that was established in December 2015. So it sets out the series of recommendation in its 2017 report, designated to provide a framework for organization to develop more effective climate related financial disclosure through their existing reporting process. Okay, so what they are recommending, they are recommended that the climate related financial disclosure should be included in companies annual financial filings. And what that means, so that means there will be an improvement, to improve the transparency and the quality of disclosure, and the most important aspect, encouraging more and more sustainable practices, right? So that is TCFD for us. And as I said, TCFD has already made a significant impact, right? Then there is a risk management. So the second objective they identified is that physical and transition risk of climate change should be managed effectively. The pandemic is a very recent case, right? So such a risky business. There is a BCP happening, disaster recovery plan. If they are not in place, then you would rather you would rather imagine how difficult it is to survive for any organization or any institution, right? So the second objective is to identify if there is a transition risk of such climate changes are happened, are they managed effectively? So while the physical risks that arise from increased frequency and the severity of climate and weather related events, so are they well documented? So are there any policy well drafted for the changes in climate? So the policy can be called as changes in climate policy. Are your technology and market sentiments are like in nexus with all of this, right? So there are these significant transitions, right? So risks which are arising from changes in climate policy, technology, market sentiments, because they are moving to net zero economy, right? And the in COP26, they are going to recommend the private finance hub that the central banks or the supervisor or supervisor, they commit to measure the excuse me, measures including stress test on banks and insurers against climate scenarios, right? So they are planning to integrate the climate risk consideration into portfolio management, and they are asking them to disclose in line with this TCFD recommendation. So the report also sets out for specific recommendation for the International Monetary Fund, which is IMF, right? And the Financial Stability Board, FSB, which we know, right? So that is that. Then there is returns. So in before to returns, so risk management, what they are telling that they are hoping that COP26 will build on the steps already taken by the bodies such as NGFS in recent years. So the NGFS is a group of central banks and supervisors who are willing on voluntary basis to share the best practices and contribute the development of climate risk management in the financial sector. So NGFS represent around 75% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and they are responsible for supervision of all of the global for the important banks and 2/3 of global systematically important insurers. Then third objective is return. The third objective they identify the report is that as countries those who are into Paris Agreement, so the countries turn the Paris Agreement goals into nationally legislated objectives for their companies and financial firms. They will also have to adapt their business models and reallocate their capital accordingly, right? So that is about the returns. So they'll have to realign it if there is, according to the legislation. And then the last one is mobilization. So the mobilization, the last objective relates to the increasing private financial flows to emerging and developing economies by connecting available capital with investable projects, right? So which are those investable projects? So investable project can be as the companies are going green, they're using solar, they are using some battery things, right? So this is the mobilization they they want to they want to take consideration into, right? So they also want, the risk management tools can be developed to de-risk investment, right? uh, so that was about those four objectives. And in the conclusion about this COP26, so there are wide range of issues that could be addressed at COP26, and the parties will not be able to tackle them all. The role of private finance will be key focus point, and the progress in this area has the potential to rapidly accelerate the global responses to climate change. And in other words, of the COP26 Finance Hub, every company, every bank, every insurer, every investor will have to adjust their business model and develop credible plans for the transition and implement them. So that was COP26, right? And as I said, so it will be so imperative for us as a finance people, because banks are going to lend some money to some organizations, to some companies, some institutes. But if they are not following this climate change, then they are not supposed to give the loans to them, right? So it is a very interesting study for all of us. So those who want to pursue something different, this can be one of the avenues that you can pursue ahead. And while I'm signing off, it is our personal responsibility as well. Say no to plastic bags. Carry your own bag. Say no to air pollution. How? Carpooling. Yeah. So there are so many little sustainability things that we can do at our part. So it is our duty to give this greener world to our next generation, isn't it? So any thoughts on it are more welcome. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope uh, it made you some sense for COP26, what is it about. And we will be having some more videos coming for. Thank you so much.